All right, it is time for good vibes, and we have with us once again Debbie Cox DeNova. She gives us such great information every single week, and today's going to be no different. I hope they're listening in the control room because we're talking about medicinal foods. You got a big list?
I have a big list.
All right, I'm ready to hear it.
Awesome.
Well, medicine and foods, is there
Yes.
such a thing?
Actually, food is medicine, and it's our most ancient medicine. Long before modern medicine came along, people used food in order to not only enhance their lifestyles in general. And so part of enhancing your lifestyle, obviously, is taking care of the body's natural defenses. We have an incredible system of defenses within our bodies, 5, in fact, that we're going to go over today, that if we eat the proper foods, we're not only living a happier, healthier lifestyle, but we're boosting the defense systems so that we lower our risk of cancer and all sorts of diseases. And all of this is research-based. It comes from a scientist named Dr. William Lee, who wrote a book called Eat to Beat Disease.
I notice you eat a lot of oranges.
I do eat a lot of oranges. I eat a lot of fruit in general. Fruit
Okay.
is very protective. So it's got a lot of phytonutrients. The deep colors, the rich colors that come through fruits and vegetables, that's all from phytonutrients. And those are very protective of the cells of your body and supportive of all the systems of the body. Because you'll find that if you eat good food, it's a symphony, right? This is a system where if you light up one system with good foods, you're likely to be lighting up a whole bunch of systems. And then the opposite is true. If
Be
you
careful how you say light up to the audience.
But if you eat the wrong kinds of foods, you're also likely to be dampening a number of systems all at the same time.
But I
as
noticed
well.
you came in and your blouse was purple, and because you eat so many oranges, it turned orange, by the way. All right. So, Debbie, educate me on, obviously there's some steps that people take and there's some transitions that they make. Educate me on that.
Sure. So let's talk about the defense systems one at a time. The first one is called angiogenesis. We have about 60,000 miles of blood vessels within our body, okay? That's enough to go around the world twice if you put it into inches. It's a lot of blood vessels. And if we have too many, it can be problematic. If we have too few, it can be problematic. And so the body's natural defense mechanism against cancer, because we all have these rogue cancer cells, is to starve the cancer cells of blood flow. And that is through this process called anti-angiogenesis. Okay, so basically some of the foods that we eat can naturally help the body to starve out the blood vessels that would otherwise feed cancer cells and turn them into full-blown cancer, metastatic cancer. In fact, what we know is that they've done studies and they've shown that all of us have these little, or most of us have these little cancer cells that are floating around. Maybe if it's the size of the tip of a ballpoint pen, right? And if you put it sort of in a soup, it'll stay almost indefinitely in that soup without any sort of growth. But the minute you introduce blood flow through blood vessels to that, it can grow 16,000 times in 2 weeks. So that's a lot. So the natural defense systems of the body is to take out those cancer cells before blood flow can get to them. And there are some foods that can actually support us in this. In fact, in one study of 79,000 men over 20 years, they found that men who ate 2 to 3 times a week cooked tomatoes with lycopene in it, okay, were actually had a 50% reduction in prostate cancer. And of the men who actually developed prostate cancer, the ones who ate cooked tomatoes the most had the fewest blood vessels that were feeding the cancer. So we know through this and many other studies that the foods that we eat can help us to starve out the blood flow. Okay, we have cooked tomatoes. There are things like olive oil, garlic, onions. We have foods like if you eat 2 apples per day, you actually can lower your risk of lung cancer and colon cancer. If you drink green tea, you can lower your risk of colorectal cancer. So there are all these foods that not only work really well individually, but what they found is that there's a synergistic effect. So I just listed tomatoes and olive oil and garlic and onions, right? And so separately, all of those have an anti-angiogenic effect in your body. But if you put them together, what they found is that the combination of those actually raise the effects in the body. So you can make a nice spaghetti, right? And cook all of those together, and you're actually getting a more protective effect in your body.
So tomatoes cooked or Better than uncooked?
Yes, well, in terms of lycopene, yes. So the substance in the body that actually helps with anti-angiogenesis is actually found higher in cooked tomatoes than it is in raw. Not because raw is not good for you,
Right.
but when we're speaking specifically about being protective against cancer, it is the
So
cooked
when you
tomatoes.
cook it, it synthesizes in a different way.
Yes, and it creates more lycopene. So yeah,
Wow,
really good for you.
that's pretty cool. So when you put them all together and you get that good taste, you're getting good vibes from it too.
Absolutely. So we're talking about eating to enhance our lives, right? The experience of our lives, yes, because eating, we love to eat, right? As human beings, we should enjoy the process of eating. But at the same time, we should be eating to help support all of these systems. The first one, of course, is angiogenesis. The next one we have is stem cells, okay? So we've heard about stem cells. We are actually born with about 750 million stem cells that are packed into our bone marrow like bullets ready to go. And they help us to regenerate through life. Now, we may think that we don't regenerate like starfish and salamanders, and in a way we don't. We don't grow back our limbs if we chop them off. But we are regenerating from the inside all the time. Our lungs, our liver, always regenerating. If you scratch
Cartilage, you're doing
Yeah.
that in sports and everything. I hear so much about stem cells.
Yeah, and we're not actually really talking about the ones probably that you hear about where they're injecting them into.
So it's different.
It is different. It's actually when we were being formed in our mother's wombs, we were stem cells at the very beginning. So the stem cells could become eyes, brain, hair, all the things. So stem cells come together, and there's always an overage, right? And the overage is about 750 million stem cells that get packed into our bone marrow. And the purpose of that is that throughout our lifetime, we need regeneration. So you drink too much, you need to regenerate your liver from the inside. You scratch the inside of your mouth, stem cells are released from the bone marrow like bees from a hive, is what Dr. Lee says, and goes to work
That
to
is
regenerate.
intriguing when you think about it.
It absolutely is. So we actually need stem cells in order to regenerate from the inside out. And there are some foods that help support us in that. And one of them is dark chocolate. So what they found is that
Amen.
Yes, exactly. So if you drink 2 cups of hot chocolate with 80% cacao flavonoids, you actually have double the number of stem cells in your blood flow. So that's going to help you to actually improve your regeneration from the inside out. And how that bears out is that there was a study of 60-year-old men with heart disease, and what they found is that by boosting these stem cells, they actually were able to double the performance of their blood vessels. So improved their heart performance and heart health.
Well, and it's not bad to have chocolate to do that, right?
I think it's wonderful, actually.
Does coffee do anything like that?
Yes, actually, coffee actually does have a really powerful effect on your DNA, which we're going to get to. That's another system.
Oh, okay. I didn't want to jump the gun.
No, that's okay. Actually, we can jump the gun if you want and talk about
sure.
DNA, because people think of DNA as genetic code, and it is. But it's also built a defense mechanism of ours. So every day we're being exposed to toxins. That's part of living on planet Earth. It's kind of the tax, right? You're pumping gas. You're breathing in the fumes from the gas. You've got fumes actually coming off of a lot of different things. You're walking out in the sun. Why are we not developing cancer from all of these things? Is because the DNA is a sort of protective mechanism to help us repair ourselves through the process of normal living. So you may have heard of telomeres, right?
Yeah.
We talked about that
Yeah.
before. So if you can think of the DNA sort of as a shoelace, the telomere would be like the little shoelace cap at the end, right? We know that over time, the shoelace cap can fray. And then once it comes apart, then so does the shoelace.
Telomere is part of the DNA.
Yes. And so what we know is that it like a fuse, it starts lowering with time, right? It shortens. And once it goes all the way down, you're done, basically. So what we want to do is to protect the cells. We want to protect the DNA, eating foods that are going to help us not only preserve the telomeres longer, but in some cases actually can reverse and actually lengthen telomeres, which is new and exciting science.
So they can grow back.
Yes, they can lengthen. And here are 3 things that you can consume in your diet. First of is green tea with polyphenols, okay? Very protective. We already talked about how it can protect against colorectal cancer, but it also can protect against dementia and Alzheimer's. It's very protective of your cells. Coffee is one as well.
Yeah.
We know that coffee can actually help with cellular autophagy especially when you are doing intermittent fasting, but it also can actually protect those telomeres and actually help them grow back. And leafy greens, many leafy greens have actually been shown to, again, help those the telomeres to grow longer.
Well, I'm glad you got coffee in there. But I don't put sugar in my coffee.
No, and
I
sugar.
just put a little cream.
That's wonderful because the body isn't designed to actually process a bunch of sugar, and we're eating way too much. So let's talk about the gut microbiome with 39 trillion bacteria. Okay, we know that the gut-brain axis, it's always communicating to our brain. So if you have an unhealthy gut and you're eating foods that are disruptive to your gut microbiome, we're not just talking about digestion issues. We're talking about brain health. We're talking about your immune function. We know that probably through the vagus nerve, which is that shoelace, sized nerve that runs from your brain.
Which is a very important nerve.
Very important. And it runs down from your brain all the way down to your gut and wraps around your esophagus on the way. We believe that the gut is sending text messages up to the brain through that, helping you to release hormones that are social hormones, okay, associated with mood. So if you're in a bad mood, it could be that you have a disrupted microbiome. One of the things that that Dr. Lee says we should be eliminating is soda. Soda is not only super high in sugar, which our body wasn't designed to handle, but even the diet soda. So a lot of people will say, well, because I'm trying to avoid the sugars, I'm going to go to diet soda. Those artificial sweeteners are actually shown to be worse for your gut microbiome than the sugar itself.
They make me feel so bad.
Oh, horrible. It's really bad for your health. So just eliminating as much to the best of your ability, because a lot of people are taking it back. If you can go one less every day until you've eliminated, that's really the best thing. And then we want to talk about the immune system, okay? So we know that a healthy immune system, a robust immune system at its best can actually help somebody in their 80s eliminate metastatic cancer. That's how strong our immune system is when it's at its best. But this army of soldiers that is designed to help us is dampened by certain foods that our body doesn't actually recognize as foods. So a lot of processed foods, you got to look at the label. If you don't recognize what it is, in all likelihood, a lot of times the body doesn't recognize it at all either.
Good point.
And then finally, we're going to be talking about the, I think we talked about it, angiogenesis, stem cells, gut microbiome, the DNA, and the immune system. So on the immune system front, broccoli sprouts, 3-day-old broccoli sprouts with sulforaphates are really, really powerful in helping us to boost the immune system and anti-angiogenesis.
Yeah, I say that a lot of times. All right, this is great stuff. We're going to have to do more in this because this is very intriguing to me. So what we're going to do, we'll take a break now. We might bring this back at a later segment. So be watching.